Hello, it's Michael Jacobs again with the channel, The Spiritually Awakened Man. Hello, men and women that are hopefully joining us as well. The purpose for this short video is I wanted to bring something to your attention that I gained a lot of insight from and a little story behind it. It might help you. You might be aware of this book that I want to talk about, but it's a book that has introduced a lot of people to the spiritual awakening world, to the metaphysical world, and it's been around for quite a while. It's one of the top 100 books on spirituality in the world, and it was written, I believe the first publishing was around 1945, and it was written about a man's life. His name was Paramahansa Yogananda, and he wrote this book, an autobiography of his life called The Autobiography of a Yogi. And I actually have my copy here that I'll put up. Maybe you've seen it in the bookstores, maybe you've even read it, but that's the book. And I'm going to read something that is in this book in the foreword that I thought was insightful. Dear reader, if you are willing to risk a complete change in your life outlook, read this book. I promise you it won't devastate you. Rather, you will gain from it joyful new insight into what life is really all about. And that foreword was written by another yogi, actually Swami Kriyananda, in 2004. Anyway, this book was interesting to me. I came across it early on, before I even knew that I was in a spiritual awakening. I came across it. I had started to wonder, what's the difference between extremely successful people and other people who are equally as smart, maybe even smarter, work hard, apply themselves, and are successful, but not as successful, wildly successful as other people that look like they've just gotten lucky in life, or there's something special about their, IQ level or something like that. And I was doing some reading about Steve Jobs. People kind of in my era grew up with Steve Jobs. I was in his prime time starting Apple and all the ramifications of that and the other things that he contributed. So he's a well-known guy, and anyone in the tech industry, which I'm from the tech industry, has usually learned a lot about Steve Jobs. So I was reading something about him. I was curious, what perspective I could gain from, why he was so successful. And one of the things I learned was that he had come across this book in his early 20s, and it was the only book that was on his iPad. And he read it once a year, which to me, that fascinated me. That it would be this book, and it was important enough to be the only one on his iPad. Anyway, so I got the book. I wanted to read it and understand it. And it's an autobiography that takes place, this young man, Paramahansa Yogananda, it's about his life in India. When he was a child, he grew up in a family that was, I guess you would say, middle class for India. His father was an accountant for the railroad, if I recall. And Paramahansa went to university, and then he got out of university and wanted to go out and seek his destiny. And so it's really a story about him following his heart and going out and being educated by people in the spiritual world, generally yogis who had great stature. Back then, you would travel around India and somehow work your way into a yogi's compound where you could live and you could study under this yogi and learn these things. And so it's really an interesting life of him learning this and then coming to a realization through multiple interactions, I should say, with yogis who are not living on this world anymore, who came to him in physical form and metaphysical form and helped to guide him through his life and guide him to his destiny. And his destiny that he was prepared for was to move from India to the West and expose the West to yoga. Not so much yoga that we know it. It's been popularized around yoga classes for physical purposes, which are very healthy for you, obviously, but more yoga from a meditative perspective, really understanding how to change your life and drive your life through gaining insights and interactions with other dimensions and entities from other dimensions, like some of the grand masters who have passed away, Buddha, different yogis. Jesus fits in this category too. He is a grand master, maybe at the highest level of anybody, probably so, at the highest level. But there's many others who are well known that would fall into this, this club of grand masters. And so it's about his involvement in learning how to access higher level of consciousness through meditation and what he learned. Anyway, his purpose in life became bringing this to the West, and he came here in the 20s and did standing room only events where he would speak. And I was always amazed learning about how popular it was when he came over here, that so many people would want to hear him speak, and it became wildly popular. Anyway, he founded the Kriya Yoga Institute, and it's located in Encinitas, California, which was fascinating to me because I grew up in a neighboring town to Encinitas. It's a coastal town, and they bought this property way back in the 20s, or maybe in the 30s by that time, to build a compound for him to continue teaching his yoga. He had some others in the US, but this was the primary compound. I had gone by this thing my whole life, basically growing up down there, surfing in the area, and the surf break there is actually, interestingly named Swami's. And, I knew this was the surf break. It's just up a couple of miles from this background picture I have that I took last Christmas time when I was camping down there. And anyway, so I thought it was fascinating that I grew up very close to this. But what I learned opened my eyes, as that little excerpt from the foreword says. It changed my life and perspective and caused me to look deeper down this path. And this is when I evolved into understanding what a spiritual awakening was all about and where it could take you in your life. So I thought you might find that interesting. Anyway, that's all I have for this right now. I thought I'd throw that out there. You might enjoy the book. I'm getting ready to read it again for the second time. And, it's a little bit of it's a little slow. It's kind of a slow read for me. I'm used to novels and things like that. Doesn't read like that. It's highly detailed to this life of this young boy. It started out and became a man and everything. But there are epiphanies that happen at certain turning points in this book that really, really took hold of me. And I think you will too. Anyway, maybe you'll read it. Maybe we can discuss it. So that's it for today. Peace, love, and namaste.